Yep, lunch and learn, and just want to welcome everyone. Hope your afternoon or morning is going good. As an ecologist, as an environmental educator, one of the things that really drew me to Slow Food was just being a very valued-based organization. And at the heart of Slow Food is this idea of biodiversity. And it's incredible. It serves us on the farms and the kitchens as people, as the planet, right? And so we felt like this would be a really important session to talk about what we can do at home, where we work, where we live, really the whole city wide, the whole campus wide. And for that, we have Laura Rost here from the Xerces Society. She's the national coordinator for Bee City USA and Bee Campus USA. Laura, take it away. Just give us a little introduction to who you are, the great organization you represent, and what we could learn more about.
All right. Thank you so much, Robbie. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm really excited to present on Bee City, USA. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. As Robbie said, I'm the national coordinator of Bee City and Bee Campus, and we're a program of the Xerces Society. Today I'm just going to talk a bit about I'll start with just a little bit about who Xerces is, and then who are our pollinators and what do they need. And then I'll talk about Bee City USA as a method you can help pollinators as a community. But I'm going to provide examples and case studies of the core sort of tenets of what we think everyone can and should do to help pollinators using examples from bee cities and bee campuses. But this is not a sales pitch for Bee City or Bee Campus. But I do think it can be an effective method, but the examples I'll leave you with can be implemented whether or not you want to participate as a community in Bee City. And at the end, I'll wrap up with some fun free resources. We have so many free resources. And interspersed here, I'll go back a slide, are fun pictures from all of our Bee Cities and Bee Campuses annual reports. And there's just so many gems, so many amazing projects and ideas and creativity. So I hope you enjoy all the pictures. All right. So first off, the Xerces Society is an invertebrate conservation organization. We have about 100 staff throughout the US and one in Canada. We mostly work in the US. And basically, we are a science-based nonprofit, and our focus is conservation of native invertebrates and their habitats. And our staff, we kind of have a lot of different programs, but we have an endangered species program, a pesticide reduction program, and then our biggest program is our pollinator conservation team. And a huge percentage of that is in agricultural work. So that is something that if you're interested in learning more, you can reach out. We also have a certification for farms called Bee Better Certified. And what's unique about our certification is we work with the growers to meet the certification. So it's a really exciting program, and I think you'd enjoy learning more if you're farming or doing food production. So feel free to reach out if you want to learn more about that. And I should say, we're named after the Xerces blue butterfly that went extinct due to human development. Um, and we work on a huge range of species, everything from monarch butterflies to fireflies to freshwater mussels, and pretty much everything in between. If it's freshwater or land in the US, we work on it. So you probably know that pollinators are very important, but you may not know just how important. About 85% of plant species on Earth require pollinators to reproduce. And we can thank pollinators for about 1 in 3 mouthfuls of food and drink we consume. So that's insect pollinators specifically. So huge impact. And I like to think that pollinators basically give us all the fun foods and a lot of the really colorful nutritiously rich foods like berries and nuts, especially like blueberries, strawberries, tomatoes, peppers, all the foods that kind of make food beautiful and fun. A ton of them are thanks to pollinators. And then the essentials like chocolate and coffee are also thanks to pollinators. Um, for Bee City and Xerces, we don't focus on honeybees just because they are non-native. They were introduced from Europe. And I know they're important to agricultural production, but they are experiencing a lot of hive loss, but overall they are not considered endangered. So that is not a focus that we have. And also, honeybees can compete with native pollinators and spread diseases and parasites. And if people do choose to keep honeybee hives, studies show that you should plant about 1 to 5 acres of flowers per hive. Otherwise, you're potentially taking away floral resources from the native bees. So it's really something that we encourage people to be mindful about if they choose to keep honeybees. And the nice thing about doing native pollinator conservation is you don't need to build or buy or manage a hive to protect them. They kind of take care of themselves when you give them the right habitat. So, zooming out, there is a huge wide world of native bees. Worldwide, there's about 20,000 bee species. In North America, there's about 5,200 species. And then in the US, there's over 3,600 species. So they all have different life cycles and sizes and dietary needs. So they have different tongue lengths, so they can use different flowers. They have different flight distances. A lot of the tinier ones can only go a few meters in their lifetime, while some of the heftier ones, like bumblebees, potentially can go a couple miles in one trip. So there's a whole range of needs, and they all have very special relationships. Some are generalists and will go to many different flowers, and others only may visit a few types of flowers. And then there's some that even just visit one species of flower only. So this diversity of bees protects ecosystem diversity and food security. So it's super essential that we don't just focus on a few species. Another unique thing about our native pollinators, bumblebees and mason bees and a few others, can do something called buzz pollination, where they basically grip onto a flower and go bzzzt at a frequency that pops pollen off of the flower, because not all flowers give up their pollen very easily. So it depends on the species of flower, but some of them, the pollen will just rocket off if a bumblebee or some of our mason bees do this vibration. So another essential thing that honeybees are not able to do are stuff like this. So this is especially important for tomatoes and peppers within the agricultural world. So this sort of behavior is something that we just can't replicate with another bee species. And there are efforts to try to hand pollinate. You can use like an electric toothbrush apparently to pop the pollen off, but that frequency is really special. So that behavior is important, that we need to have that behavior to have a healthy agricultural system, and for many of our native plants that rely on this, that you just can't sub in a different type of bee. So where do native bees nest? They do not nest in a hive. The vast majority actually are solitary nesting. Only 10% nest in a hive-like structure. The rest, 90%, are living on their own. The females are just laying eggs separately, and they're not gathering together. So, but they may aggregate. They may have nests nearby. And about 70% of bees nest underground. So you might see a really subtle little hole in sandy or hard-packed soil, or even short-mowed grass. And this is an example of what that nest structure can look like underground, but it totally varies, much like ants and termites. You see many different structures depending on the species. Um, and then the other remaining bees are stem or crevice nesting. So they might have like a tunnel nest where they lay an egg and create little chambers within a tunnel or hollow that they find. But if you create good habitat for native bees, it can be really subtle. You may have all sorts of hidden habitat around a farm or a park, or even just in an urban streetscape. So this habitat can really be everywhere, and you won't even know it. And they tend to be really gentle too. Most native bees are not interested in stinging, so they're pretty unobtrusive when you've incorporated them into a landscape. Another important thing to keep in mind is overwintering habitat, and leaves and wood in general. It has so many functions, not only for soil health, but leaving leaves, stems, logs, and plant litter in general can kind of create good habitat, especially in the winter, not just for bumblebees, and some bees, but also for many pollinator and moths. So it's just a whole variety of benefits if you leave those leaves. And if you're concerned about appearances or accessibility, you can try what's called mullet gardening, where you basically have a messy area in the backyard or the back of your front yard. So it's business in the front, party in the back. That can be a good approach for an HOA situation. And then if you are anxious to clean up your garden in the spring, we encourage you to wait till after last frost or after tax day, depending on where you are. You give insects a chance to wake up and emerge from leaf litter before you clean things up. And in general, if you can avoid it, try to avoid sending plant material to landfills. You may have a lot of great species hidden in there. And putting up signage can help kind of make it a little more palatable to neighbors if they see that you've left leaves around your oak tree. So you probably know as well that globally pollinators are in decline. Up to 40% of pollinator species may be at risk of extinction in the coming years. And in North America, about a quarter of bumblebee species are in decline. So there's an urgent need for action. We do luckily know what the drivers of pollinator declines are. It's habitat and biodiversity loss and degradation, pesticide use, and that includes insecticides, fungicides, and herbicides, diseases and pathogens, and that also includes parasites, and climate change. And as you might suspect, it's not just one factor hitting one species, it's all these factors combined. If a bee isn't getting good quality food, may be more susceptible to disease. If it's too hot, it may not be able to fly as far to find food resources. If it's been exposed to pesticides, sometimes that can affect its ability to navigate or the size of its wings, or it may make their offspring less viable, even if the pesticide doesn't kill them directly. And it can also even impact their gut health. That's a big issue for bees, actually, is fungicides especially can damage their gut health, which might make them more prone to diseases and pathogens. Um, but the good news is we know how to help pollinators, and it's relatively simple. It's something you can really take action no matter where you live and how much land, if any, you manage. There's so much we can do. So you can plant native flowering plants and have consistent blooms throughout the growing season. And that includes host plants for caterpillars and moths, or rather, butterflies and moths. You can protect natural nesting sites like bare ground, dead leaves, and all the stuff we talked about. You can reduce or eliminate pesticide use, and you can spread the word. You can put up a sign, you can talk to your friends, write elected officials, share articles. There's so many things you can do, whether or not you have your own land. And one route you may choose to explore for your community is Bee City and Bee Campus USA. It was originally established in 2012 by Phil Stiles in Asheville, North Carolina. And then when she was ready to retire, the Xerces Society adopted the program in 2018. Since then, our affiliates have engaged over 2.4 million people. They've improved or created 22,000 acres of habitat for pollinators and held over 13,000 events. And I think what makes Bee City and Bee Campus special is that these programs, we have pretty simple commitments, and then you can kind of make them fit the personality of your community. So you can play to your own strengths and interests. And another important thing is we really focus on progress, not perfection, because as you probably know, environmental issues can feel really daunting and overwhelming. So we want people to chip away and make improvements where they can and just focus on finding paths forward. And you don't have to do it all at once. We're all working on this, and none of us are going to do it perfectly, but we need to do something. So nationally, we have quite a few affiliates. The little yellow triangles are our bee campuses. That's colleges and universities. And Bee City includes counties and townships and cities, and that's the little orange-red circles. And you can see we have little clusters oftentimes. So a lot of our affiliates kind of spread through word of mouth. And so they kind of create their own little community wherever they form. And we also kind of are a population density map. So that's why we have such high concentrations in some areas. We just tend to Show up where the people are. Nationally, we have 486 affiliates in 48 states, plus DC and Puerto Rico. And we add about 40 to 50 new affiliates a year. And I'll be shrinking these numbers a little. We have a few inactive ones I'll be decertifying this year, but our numbers will still be well over 400. So, what are the commitments of eCity? Each year, our affiliates have to conduct one pollinator habitat project and one outreach event per year. Each year, they have to renew and pay a fee between $100 and $500. We can waive that fee anytime if that's a barrier to participation. And then in the first few years, we ask that affiliates have a web page with a recommended list of native pollinator plants, and if allowed by their city, a list of native plant vendors that may carry those native plants. And then, kind of the big commitment is that we ask within the first few years, they create an integrated pest management plan for their community. And we work with them on that. We have a lot of free resources, but an integrated pest management plan is basically choosing pesticides as a last resort. And so if a city has a good IPM plan, you can have pollinator habitat all over the place on municipal lands if you're really reducing that pesticide usage and keeping pollinators in mind with your habitat management. You can really have secret habitat all over. It may not look like, a meadow. It could be many different things. I'll show you some great pictures later on. And then we also ask that they have a Bee City USA street sign at some point. We provide the design files for that. So if you want to become a Bee City, first a Bee City committee is formed, and it can be an existing committee, new one, and if with the city's permission, can also be housed in a nonprofit like, Keep Blank Beautiful, like Keep Atlanta Beautiful, for instance. They can house the committee or be part of an existing committee, and they just kind of switch hats midway through and become the Bee City committee. And then we ask that they also have a city staffer as a liaison for the committee so they know who to contact if they want to do an event at a park or something. You have to fill out an online application that's relatively short and then pass a Bee City resolution through City Council, and we provide a draft resolution, and you just need us to approve it before you pass it. And then the application fee is the same as the annual fee, $100 to $500 based on population. And again, that fee can be waived if it's a barrier. So the benefits of becoming a Bee City are that you get a mailed welcome package with outreach materials, books, and a sign. You get access to an online affiliate portal. We provide a customized logo and street sign artwork. We provide ongoing training and online promo kits to help you with basically social media and talking points for various events throughout the year. You get expert support from Xerces staff throughout the country. We provide opportunities for free media coverage when we get interviewed by various outlets. It also creates a healthier community if you're reducing pesticide usage and planting more native plants. It can also be a great way to build community, both within your local community and nationally. You get to connect with others doing great work. And it also can be a great way to support local businesses and nonprofits that may rely on pollinators or that are doing great work. So that's the end of the Bee City sort of who we're about. And now I just want to share how some of our affiliates have implemented the commitments of Bee City, the idea of planting native plants, reducing pesticide usage, creating nesting sites, and spreading the word. So these are all themed around that. So I'm going to share some ideas for habitat and all these sort of things that you could implement, whether or not you want to participate in Bee City. So first off, I just wanted to emphasize that pollinator habitat can look like so many things. It could be small or large. It could be tidy or wild. You can kind of make it look like anything. So I'm going to give you some examples. As far as small habitat goes, hanging baskets along Main Street can be filled with pollinator plants. You could have put a few pots of plants on a patio or balcony of a condo or apartment. Raised beds are wonderful for creating accessible gardens. This example here is a sensory garden that's also a pollinator garden from University of South Carolina upstate. And then for large and wild, you could look at basically adding more pollinator plants to existing wetlands, choosing to let the back areas of sports fields get pretty wild. We have a lot of affiliates that kind of create meadows in the less used sections around sports fields. Also, golf courses. We have a couple affiliates that have converted course. I don't know if it's called a rough, but the the taller grasses are now incorporating they've incorporated pollinator plants. And then creating meadows and parks can be really nice as well. If there's kind of unused lawn, you can just switch that over to a native plant meadow. And then some other ideas of just the variety of places you might see pollinator habitat, and you may not even realize it's pollinator habitat. Under solar arrays, that a lot of our affiliates do that, and that can be great for research as well. You've got a really predictable site. Um, Oftentimes, part of universities, they'll do solar array meadows. And then around business park landscaping or city hall is a great way to create pretty permanent habitat that may look quite conventional, but is actually secretly great for bees. Um, Parking lot bioswales, that's a nice kind of multi-purpose thing where you just add more pollinator plants and you get both the benefit of treating that wastewater and slowing it down as it moves through the watershed and housing pollinators. Green roofs, like the one pictured here, I've seen quite a few over the years, and there's so many stunning options. Community gardens. Not only can you beautify a community garden by adding pollinator plants, but you could also potentially boost food production if you're increasing the pollinators coming into that ecosystem. Studies show if you add pollinator plants to the edges of crops, you can boost the actual fruiting. So that's something to keep in mind. And then I really like to see when sites are difficult to maintain to as lawns to convert those to pollinator meadows. So steep slopes and low spots that may get muddy and very difficult to mow, just go ahead and give up. Don't mow. Start converting that to some nice wilder pollinator habitat and save city staff or maintenance staff some time and stress and potentially keep their jobs a little safer. And then one of my very favorites is street trees. By planting native flowering street trees, you can really integrate pollinator habitat. One tree can have a meadow's worth of flowers. So a lot of bang for your buck. So it's very difficult to like capture just how many different great pollinator plants are out there for the whole country. So I'm just going to kind of give you some broad categories of ones to think about no matter where you live. Um, Milkweed is an excellent plant. There's many different species, so pick one that is native to your area only. Don't plant tropical milkweed. But they provide so much for monarch caterpillars, but also a whole variety of beneficial insects, including pollinators, will be thrilled if you plant milkweeds. Bee balm, Monarda, is a really nice one. Here's a picture of University of Iowa's Herky the Hawk mascot enjoying the bee balm in one of their meadows. Sunflowers, this is in my alma mater, Southern Oregon University, at their student farm. They planted these beautiful sunflowers. Native ones especially are wonderful for pollinators. Blazing star is a great choice. There's multiple species, and this is might be more of a Midwest thing, but some on the East Coast too. But they're great for nectaring monarchs as they migrate, adults, that is. And a whole variety of bees will be thrilled if you plant those. California poppy, if you're in the West, is a nice classic. You'll see bumblebees twirling around, doing what I like to say, they look like they're doing the curly shuffle. They kind of spin around the flower to collect pollen. It's very cute. And then asters are a classic. They're so gorgeous. There's multiple species, but they are a stunning addition and are a real workhorse late in the season. Ironweed in the central US is so nice. It overwinters as a kind of a beautiful steely color, and it's just great habitat, great for nectaring monarchs as well. And black-eyed Susan is also a nice choice. Again, this is a workhorse. You don't need to do much, and it's going to stick around and keep showing up each year. And it's just a really beautiful sight. And circling back to trees, native nut and fruit trees are awesome for pollinators. This is a picture of Spearfish, South Dakota's. They created the state's first community food forest, and I got to visit this last year. And this is a native buckeye they planted at the edge of the little food forest next to their community garden. But great choices early in the season, especially with fruit trees. That's a really good source of early season nectar for bees when they're first getting started. All right, so moving on from habitat, we're going to talk about outreach approaches that are great to help pollinators. One of my favorites is doing a bio blitz. Basically, it's a survey, and you can do it focused on pollinators or just any species. But I advise using a community science program like iNaturalist to collect data. You can invite the public to a park or other kind of specific geographic region. And for like an hour or two, you ask people to just collect photos of as many pollinators as they can find in that time. And they upload their data, and it allows you to know year to year, if you keep doing this, if more pollinators are showing up. It's a great way to kind of check in with your pollinator work, habitat work, to make sure you're actually helping. And it also allows the community to feel empowered to take action and really become scientists. This contributes to real scientific data collection if you use something like iNaturalist. And then also, this is a great way to kind of collaborate with different stakeholders in your communities, like nonprofits, university researchers, city staff, and then just like nonprofit advocates. So this can be a good way to kind of connect a lot of people that are doing similar work or have similar points of interest and make sure that they're kind of pulling in the same direction. So these photos are from Pinellas County, Florida, our second biggest bee city. Their county within our bee city program. And then on the right is a flyer from Eugene, Oregon, when they did their bee survey in 2023. So you might find also, as you do this work, that you find some just gorgeous bees. And it's a great way to engage with the artistic community to do something like a photo contest. These are photos from Riverside, UC Riverside in California, and University of Michigan Dearborn. Both of them have done little photo contests, and they've gotten some beautiful submissions. So BioBlitzes, we sometimes see great photos show up too. So another way to kind of bring worlds together, art and science. Another great outreach approach that might speak to you all is farmers markets. A lot of our affiliates attend farmers markets. It's a great way to, get outreach materials out into the community, or even just have like a QR code so people don't have to take papers home with them. It's often a good way to give away or sell native plants or seeds. You can collect donations for your projects. And then a favorite also is we have like a draft scavenger hunt you can give out to kids so they can try to find pollinator related things around the farmers market. We also have free printable sticker designs. We have 6 different designs available at bcityusa.org/stickers if you want those. And another great way to do both habitat and outreach is by creating a seed library. I love seed libraries. They're so fun, much like a free library. It's just something where it's kind of whatever you want it to be. So we see people post them in public libraries using old seed catalogs, like here in Austin at the bottom there. And then at the top there, that's Tufts University, Medford, Somerville. They created an outdoor seed library. Just putting them along a roadside's great. You could put them at a grade school, around a community garden, outside a city hall. Lots of options for locations. We just encourage you to do responsible seed collection if you're collecting wild seeds, or get donations from volunteers or local businesses that might donate seeds. But I just would encourage you to create a how-to thing for the public when they approach so they know what's going on. Is there a limit for how much people can take? If people want to donate seeds, collect their name, what it is they're giving you, the year of the harvest, all that sort of information. And then make sure you've given instructions. Can people just donate seed pods and flower heads, or do they have to donate processed seeds? So having some instruction sheet like this one at in Austin is very helpful. Another great outreach tool is having habitat signs or interpretive signs. It's like having a scientist standing there 24/7 at a park saying, "Hey, look at this." So these are some examples from University of Minnesota Twin Cities and Round Rock, Texas. Just something simple, just letting people know what they're seeing as pollinator habitat can be really helpful. Or you can do something more in depth, like with an interpretive sign, where people can walk up and learn what can they do to help. So lots of ways you can reach so many people with one sign. And then I'm going to wrap up with some examples of pesticide reduction options. This is one of my very favorites. A couple years ago, one of our affiliates, Wilsonville, Oregon, mentioned that they purchased a steam weeder. And since then, a lot of our affiliates have really enjoyed kind of jumping on the bandwagon. So I think these are super exciting. The only downside is that these steamers are they're diesel powered. I've yet to hear of a good electric one. But basically, you just load up this machine on the back of an existing landscaping vehicle, and you can have landscape staff just steam weeds rather than use a spot sprayer of like glyphosate or anything like that. So, what I think is great about this is it's a plug and play replacement. There's very little training, it's fast, and as University of Wisconsin Stevens Point wrote, it just looks like a vacuum cleaner. It has a long hose. It heats the water up to 250 degrees. And when the weeds are hit, they are cooked instantly, leaving behind chemical-free mulch for soil organisms to feed on. And as a result, the soil health improves over time. Additionally, the soil only gets steamed like about an inch down, so it doesn't kill much under the soil. And then also it kills the weed seeds. So I think that's really a big takeaway here is this can eliminate the problem of that weed, even if it's in bloom or past bloom. So this can be a great approach, and they're not too expensive. I think it's expensive, but landscapers tell me it's not too bad. So it's like a few thousand to $5,000, I think, depending on the model. But yeah, very popular kind of, I feel like, cutting edge option. And then another great pesticide reduction method is volunteers. A classic, just pulling a weed by hand is a great technique for reducing pesticide use in a community. City staff have limited time and money, and so if you can help them out by predictably volunteering to pull weeds and plant habitat, you can really do a lot to alleviate the pressure on them to turn to pesticides. So for Elm Grove, Wisconsin, they have an invasive species task force that meets weekly, and they just do incredible work, and they pose with their weeds each week. I love it. Last one year they had 55 attendees, and they did 305 hours of volunteering. And then in Seaside, California, they are pesticide free at all city properties, and that is thanks partially to their volunteers who every Saturday go out, plant pollinator habitat, and pull weeds. On average, they get about 20 people attending, and they do this at 11 parks. So very effective. Great work from them. And no matter where you're moving forward from after this presentation, I just wanted to let you know that an important step in creating healthy pollinator habitat is making sure if you're purchasing purchasing plants or seeds, to make sure they're bee safe. Even if a plant is labeled like pollinator friendly or butterfly host plant, it does not mean they're not treated with toxic pesticides. So make an effort to ask questions from your plant supplier. If you're uncertain on what they're using, as far as neonicotinoids and other systemic insecticides go, seek out organic plants and seeds. And, ask nurseries and plant growers what they're doing to protect pollinators. We have tons of free resources on our website if you want to learn more and have those conversations. This is a big step that kind of gets overlooked is the purchasing of plants. Some of those pesticides can stick around in woody plants for years. So making good choices with what you purchase can go a long way to creating healthy habitat. And then just beyond that, other ways you can buy Be Safe plants are to have an IPM plan, like I mentioned earlier, and then also creating contract grows with nurseries where you tell them what pesticides they can and cannot use. And if they agree to that, you can you basically put down a deposit and get those plants a year from now, maybe. And it allows them to grow the plants to spec. And then another great thing to do is encourage your community to add Be Safe nurseries prior to needing those plants. So if they can become a preferred vendor for your community, that can go a long way to, when the staff are like, oh, I need plants next week. I know this nursery is a good source and they're a preferred vendor. It takes a lot of guesswork out and it allows them to make those purchases easily. And as I mentioned before, if you are not able to find pollinator safe plant suppliers, that you can grow your own from purchased or collected organic seeds, cutting and propagation of plants from your own plants or from volunteers. And then a lot of our affiliates have created their own community greenhouses. That can sometimes be a good thing to get a grant for. That's sort of a kind of a material thing that grantors like to supply people with. It's not as abstract as outreach. So I encourage you to consider that option. And then finally, I just wanted to share a bunch of free resources. Xerces has tons of free publications, including recommended native plant lists for every area of the country. And we get into details here with these lists, very regionally specific. It tells you what the plants support, like host plants for caterpillars versus stem nesting resources. These plants tend to be easy to grow, easy to find for sale, and pretty attractive. And then we have so many more publications on everything from maintenance to installation and everything in between. And then on the Bee City website, we have free Bee City brochures and bookmarks in Spanish and English. And then we have on the Bee City website under bcityusa.org/IPM-plan, we've got a four-page toolkit on creating an integrated pest management plan for bee cities and bee campuses or any community. So I encourage you to check that out. It includes a template IPM plan and lots of examples of non-chemical pest control techniques. We also have a new low mow zone printable yard sign that's in Spanish and English, double-sided. We have two Spanish translations. It depends on where you are in the country, which Spanish translation might make the most sense. It seems like in California, you want to choose the one on the right. And for most of the rest of the country, the one on the left should be a better translation, but use your own best judgment there. But that's free at bcityusa.org. If you just look up Bee Friendly Lawns, Bee City, you'll find the signs at the bottom of the page. And I just wanted to end by saying we are a donor-supported nonprofit. The majority of the funding for Bee City comes through individual gifts. If you're interested in becoming a member, you can join at xerces.org/join, and it's a tax-deductible donation. And finally, thank you. You can reach me at bcityusa@xerces.org and visit our website, bcityusa.org, to learn more. And I just had to end with the great costumes and parades that many of our affiliates have done over the years. We see so many wonderful bee costumes, so I'm always jealous and inspired.
Wow, thank you so much, Laura. I'm just going to get us started with a little, Q&A. I mentioned I'm an ecologist and environmental educator. Semantics and language matters, right? You said sensory garden, meadows, bioswales, community gardens, street trees, and kind of sneaking in these pollinator plants. They all have a place, but have you found that there's certain trending words or things that are people getting excited about that we can put more energy into to gain better traction? Like what are these spaces looking like and being called these days?
Yeah, I see a lot of different trends. It seems pretty regional, but I see a lot of mini meadows and pocket prairies mentioned, which I think people find really compelling. Um, so I think the idea of a tiny but abundant space is compelling to people, and it also I think it sounds more manageable if you put mini or pocket with it. But I think one of the misconceptions is that you need to plant just annuals, like just flowers to help pollinators, but really it can look like any sort of landscape you enjoy seeing. So you don't have to be boxed in by planting seeds every year. You can do something more permanent, like shrubs and trees. I mean, just one oak tree can support so many pollinators and moths and butterflies. So just whatever you think speaks to you, you can kind of make it pollinator habitat.
Yeah, and I really love that about the different programs that you run because very much like the slow food chapters, we have a lot of autonomy to make it, answer the needs of our community, and every place is different with different regional issues and solutions. And I was just curious, kind of being at this, center of a lot of different things happening across the country. What are some of the common challenges that our communities are facing when they're really trying to level up their pollinator game in their community?
I'd say it always comes back to time and money.
Mm,
These sort of issues, the people I get to talk to are usually very on board with pollinators. And I don't hear a lot of people saying, no, I don't want to increase pollinator habitat. It's usually it feels like most people get that these issues need to be addressed, but it may get backburnered. And that's, I'd say, the biggest kind of threat is just people not having the time or resources to focus on making this work happen. And so that's why I like the structure of Bee City and Bee Campus is this can be grass tops or it can be grassroots. You can have all the work happen through the mayor's office or all the work happen through community volunteers like garden clubs and Girl Scouts and anyone in the community can basically run their Bee City work. And we see that. We have Girl Scouts and high schoolers serving on their Bee City committees. And then we also have some where the mayor is running the show in some of the smaller towns. So um, a big part of it is prioritization. But if the money is not there and the time is not there, we just can encourage people to find a new path. Just test variables and see where your other options are, where people are excited, and kind of change your focus there. So if the city doesn't have the time or money, what other groups do? Who can take this on, and who is excited to participate? And just find that path forward and just keep the ball rolling wherever you can.
I got another one for you, Laura. Um, Absolutely, reducing pesticides is something that we want to do, but it's also maybe the thing that, in a way, we have control of, but we really don't. Thinking more at the regulatory level. Not that this group in slow food is really using pesticides, but we certainly can be part of an advocacy and lobbying campaign. But are there specific like watchdog groups that are monitoring things in the legislature, things that would have like policy implications on, having a better control on pesticide use? Is there anything that you could share with us
Yeah,
about that?
yeah. Pesticide Action Network is a great partner of ours. And then well, we have our own policy department, so we do help states enact policies that are pollinator friendly and focused on pesticide reduction and regulation. So if you subscribe to the Xerces e-newsletter, you can get updates on that. And then Center for Biological Diversity is another good one. But yeah, we have a huge pesticide team at Xerces, so that's a huge focus of our work, and we've worked with I think over a dozen states now to enact different pesticide policies, and both local action and statewide action are important, and then federal action as well. There's a lot to be said for having a multi-layered approach. It kind of prevents people from getting around regulation when there's these companies don't have one policy to answer to, but if there's many different policies, it can kind of slow them from pivoting and just creating a new formula and pushing a new thing out that's basically as bad as the old thing. A diverse approach is important, and bringing in local stakeholders. Also involving like children's health groups can be really helpful. So I encourage people to partner up with related organizations, not just focusing on the environmental aspect, but focusing on human health can be a really strong way to reach elected officials and get the ball rolling with regulation.
Yeah, absolutely. The strong link between public health and the environment. Um, yeah, and we'll make sure to include some of those references in any follow-up emails or resources, Center for Biological Diversity, and of course, ZRCs. Gwen online did drop a question to you, and this is a good one, Laura. Again, kind of with your tentacles all over the country. Are you aware of any slow food chapters that were involved in any of your B City or B campus? Have you seen the slow food name come across your desk before?
I haven't, but let me just real quick search to see if any of the annual reports mentioned you all. I do keep an eye out because I've known about slow food since college. I think you guys spoke at a conference I went to like 20 years ago.
Mhm.
Let's see. But I see a lot of though even if we haven't had slow food involved, we yeah, it doesn't look like I have any. Um, but we highly encourage you to get involved. We see a lot of group like Keep Blank Beautiful groups are huge with Bee City, especially in Texas, and then also in the Southeast. That's a great partnership. And then we you even see like Rotary clubs leading their Bee City efforts, and Wild Ones chapters. So we love to see that collaboration. I think it just makes us stronger to work together. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out. And I can always connect you with if you have a Bee City or Bee campus near you, I can introduce you by email. Or if you're interested in taking this on for your community, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, no pun intended, but the cross pollination would be amazing for us. And I think we're all of the same tribe, anyways. Whether you be like plant people and having the overlap with the native plants and flowers, and the small flower farmers like yourself, or just people that are doing regenerative agriculture and want to have pollinator strips on their farm because it's helping with predatory insects and just pollination services. And who doesn't want beautiful cut flowers in their house?
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
we
yeah.
actually do have some farms that are involved with their Bee City in Spearfish, South Dakota. Cycle Farm is becoming increasingly a big part of the outreach side of Spearfish, South Dakota's Bee City work. So yeah, we love to see crossover with farms.
And then, similar to my question about, common challenges, have you come across a pattern of common successes? Is there a secret sauce to having these collaborations come up? Tell us more about the spirit of the gatherings. Who are these people? Like, do you find anything kind of like that kind of tend to align and overlap towards success? We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I think I see oftentimes people approach this from an emotional perspective. It's people aren't just doing this because it's a job assignment for their municipal job. Usually, this is like the fun thing city staff get to do in addition to their other things. We see a lot of people that are putting in extra hours and extra time, and this is like the good part of their job, and they'll tell me that, and that makes me really happy. But then amongst the community, I think what I like about Bee City is that I tend to see, I think some like certifications for cities is very dry. Like some like might feel like, oh, it's the city's certification. But what I like about Bee City is people feel like it's part of their own identity. Residents are like, we're a Bee City, and they feel like they're a part of it personally. And I think that emotional connection is probably the most key element is people feeling like they have their own role in the work and that it's their personal passion. And just giving people the opportunity to find that connection with pollinators, I think makes a big difference where they get to look at bees up close and, plant those flowers themselves and actually get to see how the environment flourishes. So just making sure that the public is engaged is super important. And then also just having diverse committees, I think, is super important. Not just
Yes.
choosing the Parks Department staff to run the whole show, but inviting
Mm,
the master gardeners, inviting local businesses to participate, like local native plant nurseries or restaurant owners that understand the value of a healthy pollinator population for good food production, and just inviting more players into the show and allowing people to kind of find the path that is exciting to them, and not dictating we're going to do the following actions each year, but the committee just allowing people to kind of say, I have a great idea for a new pollinator garden. There's this park near my house, and just kind of following the path of interest and excitement leads to a really robust and happy committee.
yeah, I love that last piece about the diversity because that's what's going to create the resiliency.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll give you just maybe like just the last word. If there's any things that you felt like you wanted to share in a minute or two, and then I'll just wrap it up and invite Alicia back on for any
Sure.
updates from the network. But yeah, any last words, Laura?
Well, thank you everyone for your time. I appreciate you hearing about our work, and we're here to support you and your community, whether or not you want to become a Bee City or Bee Campus. But we have so many free resources, so feel free to reach out, and we can connect you with all sorts of different ideas and people and publications. So Xerces and Bee City we just want to help people find what works for them and just take action wherever you can and just chip away. Don't get overwhelmed. Just do what you can now and just be happy about your accomplishments and then keep moving forward. Keep growing.
Yes, Laura, incredibly grateful. And also want to thank everyone who joined us, whether it be live or later in the video. Once again, I'm Robbie Astrup. I'm the host for Slow Food Lunch and Learn, and we'll continue to gather every last Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.